So Zachary, oh, so good morning. Welcome to Unity of Chautauqua, oh boy. And I'm Reverend Barbara Williams. It is so good to have each of you here. And for all of those online, we are in this beautiful sanctuary. And I invite you to feel that and experience our experience with the stained glass windows and all the thousands of prayers and people that have blessed this sanctuary. So we'd like to start with our welcome song.
We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord. We come together in this moment. We bind our hearts and minds, for we all form a tapestry woven from one life, one creation, undivided, all unique expressions of God. We come together now in one accord.
So as we begin with prayer, I just wanted to say a couple words of inspiration that happened this morning. I was in the first service here, and the Reverend Paul Womack was talking about a young man who had gone through many deployments overseas and had really lost his way. And so I want to pray some of the words he said to this young man, because it had me in tears. And I want to say them first, and then we're going to pray them. And he told this young man who doesn't understand where he's going, he said, "You belong to God." And just feel that for a second. You belong to God. Can you imagine going through your life and deciding that in every day? And the next words he told him is that you matter. Because of this, you matter. Your life, this point going forward, matters. And then the third word he gave him is that he was worthy, that we're worthy of living out God's dream. So let's take a moment to begin in prayer. And so we bring our attention to our breath, to the one breath that connects us all, to the one mind, the one heart, knowing that we are part of that tapestry of God. And so we take these words into the depth of our breath. I belong to God. I belong. And then I matter. Because I belong to God, I matter. My very essence blesses our world. And because I have made this commitment to be a blessing, that I am worthy of living God's dream for me. And let's just widen our prayer to include our family, our friends, our world, as we hold for them, for all living beings, for all sentient beings, for the very earth itself, that we belong to this earth, all animals, people, trees, the plants, everything. We belong to God. And that therefore we are all precious. We matter. And so we hold that all, even when we don't see it, that all are worthy of living God's dream for them, for us. And so it is. Amen and amen. Okay, so deep breath into this morning. And I just want to remind you that we are also right now recording, which is so exciting, and that we have people that are joining us on Zoom, and that later we will post on both our Facebook page, and we have a YouTube channel. So if you go to our website, you can sign up, and you can also sign up to all the links to all of this. And it's so easy to remember our website. If you know Unities, which is unity.org, you'll get into the worldwide unity and find churches of unity all over the world through that website, and all about us as well. And if you go and want to know more about Chautauqua, and I hope some of you that are remote will think that you would like to join us in future summers here, you can go to chq.org. And finally, we thought in all our wisdom, we just combined those two websites for Unity of Chautauqua. So we are unitychq.org, and you can find out everything that's going on for the next few weeks. And then after the summer, we are once a month, and we are on Zoom at that point. So we hope you will join us. Now this morning is just, I'm delighted because we have our guest minister. And this is someone that I've known for a while. She comes from Florida, but she has been way before Florida. She's been so involved in so many of the parts of Unity. So she's also had a church in Virginia. She's had a church south of where I had a church, about an hour and a half south of there. So we were always getting together. She is a soloist, and she's an adventurer. And her and her husband Neil is with us too. And I cannot believe this, that they did this, because it's beyond my imagination, but they have a sailboat that is called Toucan, and it's not like the bird, it's TWOCAN. And they have spent in the Caribbean up to 5 months sailing. So we were talking about this, and I want to bring Elizabeth up for a minute. This is Elizabeth Thompson. And it's so interesting that she and I were talking about how our lives have changed since we're not doing full-time church anymore. And so I said, I'm not retired, I'm repurposed. And so a couple of us here started brainstorming the word repurposed. And Sue said, well, I'm relaxed, as she's retired from being a school teacher. She said, I'm relaxed. So I went, oh, okay, I'm going to add that to repurposed. Relaxed. So I'm not going to just say I'm repurposed and I'm relaxed. And then, of course, Elizabeth said, oh, wait, honey, I'm revitalized.
Yeah.
So I want to introduce her and ask her to say a few words, because today we are going to get out of the drama zone, which, if you think there's a bit of drama going on in our world, Elizabeth is going to help us navigate that. And she's also going to do more about it on Wednesday night. And we're going to be on Zoom at 6:30. Again, you can get all this information from our website. So would you tell us what's happening Wednesday?
I'd be glad to. And do I get to get my talk in a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, what's happening Wednesday? It was inspired by my staff, who was over the top with drama. And I went, and every time we had a staff meeting, it's like one person was doing this, and one person was on the top of the world doing that, and one person was criticizing, and I'm thinking, this is unity. And so finally, one meeting, I had a big old circle, and I went and I put a slash through it, read drama free zone. And they got the picture. And then I started thinking about my family. And then I started thinking about the politics. And then I started thinking about the world. If I'm right, you must be wrong. And I thought, okay, there we are. And so all of my workshop material has to do with the archetypes and how we free ourselves from them. We own them, they don't own us. So, love to have you tune in.
And so now Janine is going to take us into Elizabeth's message for today.
This is a song called Home by Christiana. Beyond the sorrow and the hardships I've endured, deeper than my inner child is a part of me, untouched and free, innocent, undefiled, despite the ignorance and callous acts of man and all the hurt that they can bring. My attention has been drawn by the grace of God upon what has never been affected by such things. A stillness underneath the chaos, the ground in which our lives appear. Some call it presence or pure awareness. I call it home now, and I live from here. And no, this does not shield my heart from future pain or take the trauma from my youth or exempt me from all rage at injustice on life's stage. I just pledge allegiance to a deeper truth, a truth that underlies the chaos, a peace from which our lives arise, elusive to the mind, but never hard to find, always here to realize. It's a peace that passeth understanding, the very ground in which our lives appear. Some call it self, some call it God. I call it home now, and I live from here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Some call it presence, some call it God. I call it home. So my question, I guess, is how many of us can sink into home, can sink into the presence when the drama is sky high? I've worked on this because some people have called me a type A personality. I have no idea where they get that. Some people call me the pushy broad. I have no idea where they get that. I just happen to want what I want, when I want it, how I want it, and where I want it, right? I mean, who doesn't? But when we pause, when we reflect on who we've come here to be, I would say those words that you talked about, I would add to them about that child of God, that he belongs. And eventually, when we understand that we belong and that we matter and that we have value and that we have worth, then eventually we can rise up from the center that we call home and become the way of God. And the way of God is like unity. Like the message for today, or this whole week, is that, what was that, Neil? It was economy, creating an economy that works for all. Can we imagine that not only do we matter, that we belong, but that we have come here to be the way of God, to be the solution to the problem? Because we recognize that the Christ of our being never asks, who's wrong? The Christ of our being does not ask, who is at fault? And most importantly in my life, the Christ of us never asks, why me? The Christ of us transcends each of those things that we call getting in the drama zone and goes, I choose today to be the way of God. There was a quote by Brookhampton that said, drama does not just walk into our life out of nowhere. We either create it, we invite it, or we entertain it. And we can have a dramatic flair without being drama kings and drama queens. In the past few years, as Barbara said, Reverend Barbara said, Neil and I have gone sailing several months out of the year. Well, when we first bought Toucan, we went on our first overnight on this boat. Now, we've been on overnights before. It's an exciting adventure, sailing into the dark, not knowing where you're going, and hoping that your chart plotter works, right? Well, so we're taking the boat out, and it was a beautiful evening of absolute darkness. And there was hardly any wind until there wasn't, and then there was a lot of it in the pitch black. And so we had not taken this boat on an overnight before. We went out of Marco Island down near Naples, Florida. Cool. Until Neil said, you're going to have to turn into the darkness because I've got to reef the sail. And I went, I'm not, and you can't make me. But then, of course, I did, because the wind was picking up and it was picking up. You see, we had a goal to go under a bridge by 6 a.m. the next morning, a bridge that we had never gone under in Marco Island. Well, our mast is 60 feet tall. The bridge is about 63 feet. And you don't want to hit it at high tide, and you don't want to hit it in rough weather. So it was an exciting adventure. You want to be able to see where you're going. But we were going to arrive there at 4:30 a.m. So we had to reef the sail to slow it down. I don't know if you know this, but sailboats do not have brakes. So he said, you've got to turn into the wind, into the darkness, and it makes a lot of noise. So I did it anyway, because he's the captain. I may be the admiral, but he's the captain. And I turned into the wind, not once, got it back around, not twice, but 3 times to reef the sail to slow the thing down. Even then, we were going to hit it, not the bridge, of course. We were going to arrive at that bridge by 4:30 in the morning, and we didn't want to do that. And it did eventually slow down a little bit. And finally, after I'm calm, and of course I'm at the helm, these things always happen when I'm at the helm, there is this big old light coming at us. And I'm looking over there, and the light is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly the night was not pitch black anymore. And I look over there and I say, Neil, do you see that big light over there? And I'm all excited. I'm thinking it's a freighter and it's going to hit us. And he said, it's the moon, Elizabeth. We recognize that drama allows our imaginations to go wild, usually with what can go wrong. Who is to blame and who is at fault? And we recognize that when we choose not only to belong to God, not only to be in the presence of God, we choose to rise above, to own who we have come here to be as the way of God. We recognize that it's about time that we learn how not to avoid our fears, not how to avoid our problems. Look at the state of our earth. Does anyone now think that there is no climate change? Of course not. Anyone who anyone who thinks and observes and puts the two together. And we recognize it is up to not them, not the scientists, not the engineers to engineer our way out of our problems, but to recognize that within us, we have solutions, we have innovations. And one of my first spiritual teachers said, I may not know how to fix something, but I know how to open my mind and my heart and to have them work together so that perhaps what I think, say, do can inspire someone else who does have the skill set to engineer, to innovate, and to transcend physically the problems that we face. Do you believe that? Of course you do. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. That each one of us, as the way of God, has a role to play. And in playing that role, we can transcend what I call into the 4 V's. At first, when we are growing up, we sometimes believe that we are a victim of the world, right? The world is doing it to me. My husband, my partner, my child, my boss is doing it to me. That's called victim mentality. How has it served you so far? Not so hot. Would it be okay if life got better? One of the first steps in transcending this victim consciousness that sometimes is subliminal and in our subconscious, it runs even if we're not aware of it. But the way to transcend it, to go, what would happen if I stopped asking the question, why me? And said, why not me? If it is happening in my world, I have become the divine catalyst that can create a whole new paradigm. So transcending our victim consciousness, we move into victor consciousness that says, from me, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know that sounds familiar, right? So I become the victor in something. I begin to be able to think new thoughts of why not me? How can I be the way of God in me? And this in itself becomes a catalyst that invites circumstances that we can recognize so we can participate in a whole new way that changes the dynamic, changes the energy, and changes the fault finding. And from victor consciousness, then we can move into vessel consciousness. This is a more centered, homey place where the presence of God is released into our life. So it's no longer to me or from me. It becomes through me. And that's where the magic begins to happen. That's where the drama begins to settle down. Now, we can have a dramatic flair, and no one has ever accused me of not having a dramatic flair. I get that, but I run from drama zone. And I've had great teachers in my life, beginning with my family, that have invited me to be the presence, to be at home, to be the living spirit. So instead of to me as the victim or from me as the victor, we become vessels of through me, that the light of God shines through us. The love of God radiates through us, and all of a sudden we're in the magic zone and no longer a part of the drama zone. We are the solution. We are the catalyst that allows the innovation, the creativity to form in life. There's a quote that I love, that creativity, it's Sarah Darian, who is a Middle Eastern mystic. He says creativity is the state of consciousness that you and I can enter into, where we tap the treasury of our innermost being. And we cultivate this treasury so that we can bring beauty into manifestation. And that would be beauty of relationships, beauty of solutions, beauty of recognition of who we are and welcoming who we are into the planet. That being around us, and this is something I had to learn because people were intimidated by me. I didn't like that, but I knew that since I was a pushy broad, that it would be natural that people might be slightly intimidated. How about if I shifted becoming the drama queen of many situations into a simple recognition, it is safe to be in my presence. It is safe to approach me. I don't know what each of us is dealing with, but I do know that when we move to victim consciousness and victor consciousness, which can be very pushy, into vessel consciousness, we are moving into that presence and that state of mind that allows us to become the veritas, the veritas. We become the principle itself. And isn't that what unity has invited us to do? It has invited us to take ownership of our oneness with the presence. Invited us to take ownership of being the creative force through the Christ of God in us, as us, through us, into that veritas. So it's no longer to me. It's no longer from me. It's more than through me. It becomes I am it. Can you see how we're moving into one place, into another? It's an evolutionary process where we decide to take ownership of who we came to be. And every day it's a creative, innovative endeavor. Who did I come to play as today? What role can I play in making it a safe space for the presence and the power of the living Spirit of God to express as me, as you? So it becomes an opportunity where you and I get to look at the time, you and I recognize that we're here to bring out the beauty of the living Spirit of God. We are here to serve as the catalyst for what allows the world to work together as one. We are here not to run away from the climate change, not to run away from the polarization that is going on in our government and in governments all across the world. We are here to be a catalyst of what can go right. Some of you have watched the Olympics, right? And in the Olympics, there is a woman whose name I cannot pronounce very well, but her name is Christiana Tismaloski, and I dare you to correct me. Go ahead, give it your best shot. But recently she was from Belarus, or maybe you heard her story. And her story is a perfect example of high drama, where somehow through her athletic training, she was able to center and be calm in the presence and act from a space of mastery. And in this mastery, she had the gall to criticize her coaches who were putting her into an event for which she had not trained. And she was criticized for tweeting about it. Might not have been the best idea in a totalitarian state, but she tweeted about it and they recalled her. They called it repatriating, regrouping, and they were forcing her to get on a plane to get back to Belarus. And she received a so-called random call from her grandmother that said, "Do not come home." And you see pictures of her in the news where she's walking in the airport and she's texting. And we'll go, well, what's she texting about? She's quickly finding the Google Translate into Japanese that says, in a sense, please help me. I do not want to go home. It is not safe for me. And then the Japanese security surround her and take her to the Polish embassy. Could she afford, my question is, could she afford not to act as anything but the veritas in that situation? She stayed calm in high drama, and somehow her husband was able to join her, and her daughter was able to join her in Poland, where she has political asylum. The world is full of high drama. It's not whether things are going to happen in our life. It is, are we and how are we the way of God that brings home into the situation and allows each of us to be a catalyst for what can go right? I ask myself often, is it okay if my life gets better? Is it okay if my relationships become more harmonious? And finally, for me, this is big, is it okay that I can accept my beautiful husband, my daughter, my stepson, my grandchildren, my former son-in-law as they are? Can I move into the place where everyone gets to be the way of God, and I have the audacity to observe it? I have the audacity to call it out. I have the audacity to claim it for my life. Some people create their own storms, right? And then they get mad when it rains. Well, part of moving into the drama-free zone is to take ownership of where you are in this moment, who you are in this moment, and how you are showing up in this moment. And it is those sequential moments that build a foundation by which we move from the vessel into the veritas. Is it okay if I begin to own my life to such a degree that nothing disturbs the calm peace of my soul? And is it okay if I can love myself and everyone who crosses my path enough that I leave no one out, no matter what they have done or how they are showing up? Go ahead, try that on for size. It's a lot of fun and it's a real challenge. And as time is moving on, I have so much more to say about this, but I want to share a story. When we stop having to be right at the expense of making everyone else wrong, we transcend into what I love to call a win-win. I'll get into the story in a minute, but I hardly ever go into any kind of financial agreement or exchange of talents without making it be a win-win. I will often look at those individuals. That doesn't stop me from trying to make a deal. Neil often says, you do not want to negotiate with my wife. So you better take what I'm offering right now, because if she gets into the negotiation, it'll be a little tricky there. However, if we cannot move into win-win and someone loses, what is that equation? It's an easy mathematical equation. If there's a negative and a positive, it ends out negative. Something is taken away. So owning where we are, who we are, as we are, moving into a win-win where everyone gets to play as the presence and the way of God in expression for who they are right now and what they are dealing with. We begin to transcend, ascend into the rarefied air where the innovation and the creativity can radiate in, around, through, and from us. Two Zen monks were in a heated agreement. Aki insisted that enlightenment, I love that, insist and enlightenment, it doesn't quite fit, but enlightenment can only come through personal effort and perseverance and determined spiritual practice, right? But Baku argued, no, Enlightenment can only come after complete surrender of the personal effort. We've heard both of those. The debate continued for hours and hours. Unable to resolve their differences, they went to their spiritual Roshi and they bowed to the master. Aki presented his case that enlightenment can only come through personal effort and perseverance and discipline and long hours of practice. And the beautiful enlightened being said, "You are right." So bursting with pride, he looks over at his friend Baku and he says, "Ha!" And then Baku said, No, master. Enlightenment can only come through total surrender to all things." And he presented his case with the same amount of passion, perseverance, and acuity. And the Roshi listened very carefully, very closely. And at the end of the presentation, he said, "You're right." Well, upon hearing that you're right and you're right, Aki sprang forward and bursted out, "Honorable Roshi, we have presented vastly different perspectives and arguments to you. We cannot both be right." And the Roshi said, "You are right. If I make you wrong, we're both wrong. If I make you right, we both can move into that place of win-win." So I'm inviting us to learn that when drama comes up, it comes up as a niggle in the thinking. It comes up with an uneasy feeling in the heart. It usually comes up as a knee-jerk reaction that we could have avoided had we thought and centered into that beautiful space called home. Some call it God. Some call it the presence. We can call it home. Thank you so much for that song. So we're learning to refrain from knee-jerk reactions, even in our brain. In Unity, we've spent quite a bit of time learning how to refrain from knee-jerk negative opinions that polarize situations within ourselves, within the world, within all of our relationships. Then we can review how we could show up or could have shown up in a more enlightened space without blame. Remember, the Christ in us never asks what can go wrong or who's at fault. It simply comes from that centered space that can refrain and reframe so that all of us get to be the beloved. All of us get to belong to the presence. And then finally, we can renew. And as Barbara said, that was my word, revitalized. Coming here to Chautauqua, it was easy to look at what's going on all around me and feel the revitalization. So drama does not ever come into our lives uninvited. We either initiate it or we entertain it. So I'm inviting us to be in that sacred space where we can own who we are as the way of God. Thank you. Namaste. I believe we're going to have a song. Yay.
I am that I am has guided me to this moment. Here I am, sing with me. this moment, to this moment. Here I am, here I am, to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. To be the voice, to be the voice and to be the heart, and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth, is made known on earth. I am that I am, has guided me to this moment. Here I am that I am, has guided me to this moment. Here I am, to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth. Take this last time into meditation. To be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth.
When the master asked, "Who do you say I am?" the correct response was, "You are the Christ, the beloved of God." And the master responded, "You are correct, but no one revealed this to you except the presence that you are in your heart. I am that I am. From this moment on, willing, ready, and able to allow the living Spirit of truth, the love, and the power to express and to radiate itself to me, from me, through me, as me. Living Spirit of God, you're invited into these hearts and into these minds. You are welcome here. You are welcome now. As we go forth into this earthly day from a foundation of knowing that we are the way of light and love. We are the way of peace and truth. And in the silence, we dedicate and consecrate this knowing, this choosing to be the will and the work and the way of the living Christ in silence. let us go out and greet a newborn earth as being the way of God's love in it. And so it is.
I am that I am, has guided me to this moment. Here I am to be the voice and to be the heart through which heaven is made known on earth.
Ooh, ah.
So I'm wiping some tears away. I want to hold that I'm the way of God, expressing as the Christ. So this is our opportunity for an offering. We are not passing a basket around, but if you brought your gift here, and for all those that have sent their gifts through our website or through our emails, thank you. Thank you. It's made us be able to share Elizabeth with us. So what a gift that is. So if you take your gift, whether it's been sent online or you've sent it at other times, and just hold that consciousness that our gift is the way of God. Our gift that supports this ministry, and also the consciousness that we gift to coming together. And so as we hold this idea of abundance in our lives, that we are the gift God gives to the world, we say our offertory blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Please join me. Ready? I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And so it is, and so we are. And so would you join now as we say our unity prayer of protection? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So thank you for this day, and hope to see you this Wednesday night on Zoom, or later hope you'll join us on our YouTube channel. So bless everyone, and thank you for being here.
And daily word.